Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which we meet and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Today we march for all women, but we know feminism has never really delivered for all women. Disabled women have been left behind, somewhere back in the late 60s. For too long our voices have been missing, despite the fact that people with disabilities are the most discriminated against people in Australia today. The best example of this is employment. In Australia, only half of all people with a disability are in the workforce, and that figure has been steady for 20 years. Our rates of employment for people with a disability are amongst the worst in the developed world. But for women with a disability, the situation is so much worse. Today in Australia, 51% of women with a disability who are lucky enough to find work earn less than $200 a week.
Shame.
This is compared to 36% of men with a disability. Only 16% of women with a disability earn over $400 a week, compared to 33% of men with a disability. Meanwhile, the average wage for women in Australia is $1,388 per week, $300 behind our male counterparts. So when we talk about wage disparity, no one is talking about the catastrophic wage gap that exists between women with a disability and absolutely everybody else. Why not? When unemployment and that wage gap ensures that women with a disability are trapped in poverty, experience greater levels of homelessness, and are 40% more likely to be victims of domestic violence. I lost my leg 6.5 years ago. I know I am a competent mum, employee, and athlete, but I often feel tagged, bound, and stereotyped because of my disability. What many see is diminished capacity to work, to make decisions, and to live and travel independently. It is a stigma, a myth that is so entrenched that most people born with a disability will struggle to ever find meaningful work, to receive a decent education, or to reach their potential.
Shame.
Feminists have always asserted that anatomy is not destiny. It is about time this applied to women with a disability. We are not disabled by differences in our physical and mental health. We are disabled by social, environmental and attitudinal barriers which are a daily part of our lives.
Yeah.
Intersectionality is well recognised, documented and discussed, but I no longer want just recognition that it exists. I want action. I cannot neatly separate my identity of being disabled and being female, nor should you. Many of you are here because you are outraged, like me, at the levels of sexual assault and violence experienced by women the world over. Please also be outraged by this. 90% of women with an intellectual disability have been subjected to sexual abuse, and more than 2/3 have been sexually abused before they turn 18 years of age. When you are campaigning for equal pay, please also fight for the disabled women in Australia who are being paid less than $6 an hour, and their rate is assessed not by their capacity to do the work, but how fast they can do it through productivity-based assessment tools. We have seen great gains in terms of education for women and girls, but the job is not done. only 16% of women with disabilities are likely to have any secondary education.
Shame.
There is hope. Record numbers of disabled women joined the women's marches in the United States last year, demonstrating that women with a disability want to be heard and they want their experiences to be part of the narrative. We want to be at the decision-making table. We too want to be in the workforce, on boards and in government. We together need to begin to make change for these women. We need you. We cannot do it alone. Today we march for all women. Let's make sure that feminism delivers for disabled women. We need you to join with us to champion our cause, because our fight is your fight.